I've taken enough jujitsu to be slightly dangerous.
Really?
And let me emphasize slightly. Yes.
Enough to kick my ass.
I got a mean arm bar, and I can choke the fuck out of somebody with these bony ass arms. You heard it here. Slightly dangerous. Hello and welcome to Healthiest. I'm here with my good friend Wes, and today we've got a few different topics that we're going to cover. Specifically, we're going to go over the most common lifting mistakes. Secondly, we're going to go over, and I got a question for you. What do you think is better for fat loss, cardio or weightlifting?
Cardio.
It's a good guess. Yeah, we'll dig into that. We'll let you know. Thirdly, we're going to talk about the busy man workout strategies. And the reason I picked that one is because I know you're like one of the busiest guys that I know. 4 kids, crazy job, traveling all the time.
Yeah.
You want to be healthy, and it's sometimes a little bit challenging.
Very.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about some of the different strategies you can use if you're a busy guy. Lastly, we're going to talk about what to do if you've been told that you got low testosterone, because this is like a big thing now, especially for guys over 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you had yours tested?
No. I don't think they tested for that when they did all those blood tests.
Sometimes you have to ask specifically for
Yeah. You know, you told me to ask about that one test, and I didn't remember until I got in the car and left. And I was like,
yeah.
So I don't think they tested for the
That's
H1B, whatever.
Oh, HbA1c.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a measurement of like blood sugar over the last 3 months.
Oh, wow.
So that's usually how they diagnose like prediabetes. So a little bit different than testosterone, but a lot of times they're related.
Really?
Yeah.
Does testosterone drop as you get older sometimes?
There is some speculation, but I believe that it's a bit more nefarious than that. It's not as simple. It's very simple. Yeah, I say it's not as simple. It's very simple to blame things on age. And
Okay.
I think we've become sort of habitual around that, where we just blame kind of everything on age. And like my father, my stepdad, for example, like every time he gets up and he's a little bit sore, he always says, "Sucks to get old." Sucks to get old, right? Like everything is blamed on age.
Yeah.
But there's other stuff going on here that we should talk about.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
So let's get started first. Let's talk about these most common lifting mistakes. And I know you've done a fair amount of lifting over the years, but what do you think are some of the most common lifting mistakes? And I've got my ideas just from spending decades in gyms.
I would say the 2 things that come to mind right off there is bad form and too much weight.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I think bad form, of course. What happens when we use bad form, and then we add on too much weight? The ultimate thing that goes wrong is like we get injured, right?
Yes.
So I would say like the biggest mistake in weightlifting is getting injured.
Yeah.
And the only reason you get injured is because you've got bad form and you use too much weight. Usually it's the combination of both of those things.
Okay.
Have you been hurt before?
Oh, yeah.
Have you been hurt before?
Yes. You mean working out? Or?
Yeah, working
out. Yeah. A lot of times I would hurt my shoulder. That was a common one, like one of my shoulders. I don't know if it was probably my form, but it would do something that would send sharp shooting pain through my rotator cuff or whatever.
Both sides or just one?
Just the right side generally.
All right.
So I noticed that a lot. And then I have lifted and hurt my back,
Yeah.
So
you run the gamut.
Yeah.
And with the shoulder thing, like what do you normally do when your shoulder hurts?
Just
bench presses, shoulder presses, like what is it?
Yeah, that would be. I've noticed it during shoulder presses, and then certain like doing like these things, whatever those are called.
Yeah.
But where I don't know if I turned it wrong or something. It felt weird, and so I just stopped doing that.
Yeah, with anything that has to do with form related stuff, there's some biomechanically advantageous positions that we want to use whenever we create different movement patterns. And one of the really nice things about being in the gym is if you really understand biomechanics, when you're in the gym, I call the gym like the lab.
Mm-hmm.
We're like in the laboratory and we've got all these like beautiful precision instruments to work with. It's very easy to really focus on good technique if you know what you're doing, right? So just for example, like with the shoulder, if I'm going to do something kind of out in front of me or overhead, whether it's bench pressing or doing a pull up or reaching up overhead, there are some positions of this shoulder that I want to be in, particularly what we call external rotation. This is external rotation. When I bring my elbow in towards my midline, that creates a more stable shoulder position, which is a much safer position for that shoulder no matter what I'm doing.
Okay.
If I get to this elbow out position and I'm moving weight, and I'm exaggerating a bit here, we can put a lot of pressure on some of the tissue that we don't want to be putting pressure on.
That's what I feel like I was doing
Yeah, you'd be surprised. Like most people, they don't really understand biomechanics. When you're out in the real world and you're challenged with something and you may not be thinking about it very much, sometimes you get into some weird positions. But when you're in the gym, you want to build as much strength, biomechanically correct strength as possible, so that when you do get out in the real world and things get a little messy, you don't necessarily blow yourself up if you get in a few bad positions. They're kind of inevitable, but the stronger you get in the gym, the less likely you are to hurt yourself when you're out there in the real world. And that's what we're really training for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just one example of just like protecting the shoulder, stay in some external rotation, especially when you load the system. The other thing that, going back to technique, the other thing that you mentioned was your back. What were you doing when you hurt your back?
I think I had it there's been too much weight. Sometimes just pushing down on it would mess
So like
it up.
squat?
I could see that happening with a squat, or doing like a bent over rows or whatever they call them.
Yeah.
Like I've done that before, where it was like I had it curved or it wasn't straight, and I tried too much weight and kind of jarred it. So I have a herniated disc in my back, so when I'm feeling good, it's okay, but like I got to be careful. So if my technique is wrong, let me know.
Yeah. So that's probably, in my experience, the most common mistake I see is not being able to manage spine and pelvis. And that's really core strength, right? So when you're doing different movements and you're not sitting on a chair in one of those bodybuilding machines, right?
Yeah.
You're not sitting on one of those machines where the thing that is controlling your spine is like the seat back. When you actually have to like stand up and you have to control your spine and pelvis, it becomes a little bit more challenging.
Yeah.
But as you know, if you load that system and you get into some flex positions, you can damage some of that tissue in there. So being able to manage spine and pelvis, that's core strength. Real world core strength is being able to kind of keep that system organized as you create movements through all of the other joints.
Yeah.
Most people don't know how to do that. Like a bent over row, like you're right. Yeah, like if you lean over and you've got a little bit of round on the back and then you add a bunch of weight, your arms might be strong enough, but if your back is positioned poorly, over time, it can really start to bother you.
Wow.
And most guys over 40, like they've got some disc degeneration, they've got some old injuries, right? If you're a generally active person, we all kind of have some degeneration there. So it's even more important to figure out what it should look like to maintain a structural stability through that system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Pretty much agree with everything he says, because I don't know anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is some debate out there, right? Like, depending on what you're kind of chasing. So we've talked about this before, but there's like two different, I consider this as a kind of a simplified version, but there's two different kinds of buckets when it comes to like fitness. When it comes to like goals of fitness, you've got like the bodybuilding world.
Yes.
Right. The bodybuilding world is like, we've got a bunch of different muscles on the body. I want them all to grow so I can be giant and jacked.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to do exercises that are specifically going to focus on those individual muscles. Right. So I'm not so worried about the control of my spine and pelvis. There's nothing wrong with kind of sitting down, leaning back a little bit, grabbing the dumbbell and doing some bicep curls.
Yeah.
Right. Like if that's your goal, we don't really have to worry about core strength so much. Right. But when you get into more, I call it like functional training. Functional training is training where we use the entire system. And when I'm talking about training, I call it the one muscle method. Like we want to use the entire body as one giant muscle.
Yeah.
Right? That's where it becomes much more important to be able to stabilize spine and pelvis. And that's training more like an athlete as opposed to a bodybuilder.
Sure.
Right. And that's kind of my background was working with more of the athletic folks.
Less core strength required for bodybuilding.
There certainly can be.
Unless you're working on something specific.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you think about like from a bodybuilding perspective, like what is a bodybuilder, when they do their core strength stuff, like why do they do core strength stuff? Like what is their,
To build up their abs.
yeah, exactly. Right.
They
They
can-
want strong abs, no doubt.
Yeah.
But a bodybuilder typically doesn't really give a crap about how athletically he or she's going to be able to perform. Like, let's just be honest. No, no judgment, whatever you're into. But, if you're an athlete, we're really specifically focusing on performance. So we want to build the system, toenails to fingernails.
I mean, do they really care about strength too, or is it just kind of more like it's just aesthetics?
That's a great question. Now, full disclosure here, I'm not engrossed in the bodybuilding world, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know all the specifics here, but generally speaking, if you want muscle hypertrophy, which is just like growth of muscle tissue, you generally want to use a little bit lighter weight with higher volume. So a lot of time under tension.
Okay.
Okay. So it might be anywhere from 10 to, let's even go to maybe 30 repetitions. It's a big range, but like you're doing a lot of volume. So the goal isn't necessarily how heavy it is, although there is some sort of a response physiologically when you just load up muscles, when you put weight on it, you will automatically get stronger. But the goal is not like how strong can I get? It's how big I can get.
Yeah.
Like a true bodybuilder, all they care about is big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They look big, but they're really just a bunch of pussies. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the really strong guys, the strongest guys, those are the powerlifters.
Yeah.
They don't look like bodybuilders.
Really?
No, they look like cavemen.
Yeah.
They're just big. Like they're big, giant. They got some mass on them. They don't want to be ripped, because if you're too lean, you might not be able to move as much weight.
Yeah.
There's a saying in powerlifting, they say mass moves mass. You just want to be big. And
Interesting.
there's kind of a Goldilocks zone there, right? You don't want to be too big, you don't want to be overly fat, but you will notice that like some of the best, strongest people, they've got quite a bit of body fat on them.
So would these guys, like in the world's strongest men competitions, would those be like your power lifter types?
Yeah, they're a little bit different. Like if you're straight powerlifting, there's only like 3 contested lifts. So I would say that the world's strongest men, they're way more athletic because they're capable of doing a whole lot more stuff, and they're incredibly strong. But there's a good chance that like if the world's strongest man went to a powerlifting meet competing against, now I'm talking world class here,
Okay.
right? If they went to a national championship powerlifting meet, they probably wouldn't win.
Okay.
It's the guy that's focused on just powerlifting that's probably going to win that.
Okay.
The world's strongest men, those guys are amazing. They would probably do well, but their training's a little bit different
Yeah.
because they're tested on so many different things.
You have to like lift a car or like
Yeah.
big, giant round boulders. And,
Yeah. Have you watched those?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, who hasn't, right? Those
Yeah.
are just the best. I just love those things. In
Yeah.
college, we used to watch those things all the time.
I used to watch them at restaurants that I worked at. They always had them on ESPN2.
Yeah. They would just play them over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're super fun. But yeah, those guys, pretty incredible. But now, like those guys, they don't have a lot of endurance, right? So if you would tell them to, and we got to be specific about endurance, right? There are some things that they're doing for sort of a long period of time. But if you ask those guys to go out and run like 3 miles,
Yeah.
like forget it, right? Like most of those guys can't even run, So when you become a specialist like that, you give up something. So when I'm working with clients or even athletes for that matter, I want them to be good, physically capable of just about everything. Like we want all of it, because the more physically capable I can make them, the more endurance they have, the more strength they have, the more power they have, all of those things.
More money.
Yeah, it gives them more money, especially
yeah.
if they're a top level athlete, right? Yeah, but we've kind of lost track here a little bit on this, on these common lifting mistakes.
Trying to make it sound better, like
Yeah,
you'll have all your dreams will come true the stronger you are.
it's true.
Yeah.
I actually literally believe that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, maybe not all your dreams come true, but I think
All your wildest dreams.
and everything is easier if you're fitter.
That is true.
I should say healthier,
Yeah.
which I kind of think of the same thing.
I would agree.
Yeah,
We've talked about this.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's my big idea. It's like health equals fitness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be fitness in these jeans.
All right.
I'm an idiot. Okay.
You're not an idiot. So these common lifting mistakes, I think another thing maybe we could talk about a little bit is especially for guys, is going after it a little bit heavy or a little bit hard too early.
Okay.
So especially if you're like an ex-athlete and you've got this mentality of like pushing yourself, like you're okay with pushing yourself. If you're okay with pushing yourself, there's much more problems that can occur. And I've known a lot of guys that have kind of gone into the gym thinking that they were 20 years younger
Yeah.
and remembering what they used to be able to do. And they make themselves so freaking sore.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes they injure themselves so badly, not necessarily because they did something wrong technique wise, but just because they overdid it.
Yeah.
So I think dose is really, really important as well. So more so in the beginning, it's amazing how much, if you condition your body, how much volume and how much intensity your body can actually take. It's incredible if you build yourself up. So coming out of the gates early, and you just mentioned that you were working out the other day, and you're sore today, right?
I'm sore, but the first one, it was interesting because I just did that little HIIT workout and I was really sore. I was like, dude, this is crazy. But then now I'm like, I did a little bit more than I was like, all right, I was nervous, because I don't want to be like so sore I can't function the next day. But now I'm like, all right, I can like in a day and a half, like I'm back to normal. So ready to lift again. So I'm getting a good pace. I just need to kind of find the time to do everything.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Once you get over that hump, and when a lot of times what happens is you get super sore, and then you take those 2 weeks off or that 1 week off or whatever, and then it's so much harder to get back into the gym, right?
Yep.
Like I know so many guys, they started off with a bang. First few days, they're like, oh, I'm just going to take a couple days off because I'm really sore, and then they never get back to it. You just lose all that momentum.
Yeah, I feel like that's the hardest part, really, is if you do that, to just keep going.
What keeps you going?
Oh, the scale mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look at the scale and I'm like, dear God.
So mostly aesthetics, the way you look?
And feel. I mean, I liked it. I liked it. When I was in good shape the last time, I felt strong. It was great. Everything was easier. Like you said, work was easier. Like going in the crawl spaces, I didn't have to like drag my ass on the ground. Like now I could like do a plank and like walk and like barely get dirty. Now I'm like just like army crawling. I'm like, whatever. It's like my stomach's dragging the ground. I'm like, none of that. It was so much easier. Climbing the roofs was easier. Everything was easier. It was just better. I took up less space,
Yeah.
The bed seemed bigger.
Because it was.
Yeah. It was just better. My clothes fit better, Yeah, it was like, it was aesthetics, but it just felt good.
Yeah.
It felt good.
And at the end of the day, like, who doesn't want to look good too, right? Like sometimes I poo-poo on aesthetics, but let's be honest, like who doesn't want to look amazing?
Yeah.
Right. And if you can get yourself fitter and you can get yourself in better health, you're going to look better too.
Yeah. It definitely does something for your confidence, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it has a big difference, I felt great when I was in shape. Now I'm like, every day I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's frustrating.
And as far as like confidence goes, and I'll be Mr. Naive here because, I've been doing this for a long time and I've been taking great care of myself and obsessing over this shit. So I've never really been overweight, at least not for 20 some years.
Yeah.
Like, how does it show up just for you anyways? Like, what is that confidence? Where do you see that the most?
Oh, like if I went to the pool or something.
Yeah.
I hate going to the pool right now, but when I was in shape, I didn't mind it though. It was cool.
So it's like taking your shirt off and walking around, just being in public.
I feel embarrassed now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a shitty feeling.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, getting yourself fit, I think we should be ultimately chasing better performance. And if we can really focus the effort on better performance, ultimately that's going to bleed into just looking so much better.
Yeah.
Because I know right now, if I gain 20 pounds of body fat, my performance is going to go down.
Oh, yeah.
In somewhere, right? I might be a little bit stronger, but I'm going to give up some of my cardiorespiratory endurance. Like I'm not going to be able to run as fast, and my confidence is going to go down. I'm probably not going to look as good, So I think the aesthetics are important, but I always try to get people to sort of celebrate that as a win as part of just being able to perform much, much better.
Yeah. It's like a nice side effect.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Fringe benefit.
Yeah, it's a side effect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So cardio versus weights for fat loss.
So what you said good guess, right?
Yeah.
So would that mean I'm wrong?
No.
When I said cardio?
No, because, at the end of the day, the most important thing when we're talking about fat loss, and, we covered this before, but when you think about fat, there's a bunch of cells in your body, these fat cells, right? They're like little balloons, and they fill up with fat.
Yeah.
It's like storage, right? It's like an energy tank. And you got a trillion of these things in your body. So the question would become, like, if we do cardio, and let's just say elevate your heart rate and your respirations for an extended period of time, does that send a signal to the fat cell to open the door and let stuff out? Or does weight training send a signal to that fat cell to open the door and let stuff out? Which one is better at sending the signal to the fat cell to let fat out? Because the only way we can get someone skinnier, less fat, I shouldn't say skinnier, less fat, is by taking stuff out of the fat cell. And here's, yeah. And I don't, to be honest, I don't really know for sure either. But what I do know is it's unlikely that either of those things alone are going to have that significant of an impact on fat cells. The thing that is going to have the most significant impact is going to be your nutrition. It's what you eat.
Ah, yes, that makes sense.
Yeah, and the only reason I say that is because, I've seen so many people who have done tons of cardio and are still overweight, and some of them I've even seen get fatter.
Really?
Yeah, so you can
because they eat bad.
Exactly, right. And if you go to, I would always tell people, like, if you don't believe me, go to a local 5K race, because they have these 5K races everywhere. Go to the local 5K race and stand at the finish line and just watch who the finishers are. Watch the top finishers. Like the top 20%, 80% of the top 20% are overweight.
Really?
Yeah, and they run. They actually have pretty good times. So they're fit, but they're carrying extra body fat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you talk to these people, and I've talked to many of them over the years, they'll usually be very honest and say, like, yeah, well, it's just, I don't eat very good, or I drink too much beer. Like they'll admit that their nutrition is not very good.
Yeah.
So, I'm always like, for me as a coach, I see that as like potential, right? Like if do you want to run faster? Some people are like, I'm fine, right? But if like, I'm like, hey, you want to run faster? Let's get some of that weight off. And then you're going to fly. Like you're going to drop 30 seconds, right? And that's kind of fun, right? When you get those performance gains and you look better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, the most important thing is what are the signals, or how can we send the signals to those fat cells to release their cargo? What is the most impactful thing, the impactful way to do that? And it is, hands down, from what I know and from all my years of experience, it's always been nutrition. It's always been nutrition.
So how does that work? Like what causes the body to store that, store fat?
That's such a great question. I was actually thinking about this today. So if you think of like a fat cell, or any cell for that matter, right? But when you think of a fat cell, imagine it like the human body.
Okay.
Okay, so the only way that we can make the human body bigger, right? Not just fatter, but just bigger, or way more, is we have to put stuff in the face, right? Like we have to put stuff in our mouth and put it inside of our body. That's the only way we're going to get bigger. Technically. Yeah. Do you have another way?
Well, you could go the other way.
Okay, yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. He's always thinking. That was the best. Yes, you could do other things. So the point is, you got to put stuff in your body in order for your body to be heavier, right?
Right, yes.
Ear holes, that's probably what you're talking about. Putting stuff in your ear.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure that's what you're talking about, right?
In the ears.
Yeah. So anyways, the only way to get bigger is to add mass.
Yes.
Right? So same with a fat cell. The only way a fat cell can get bigger is if we add mass to it.
Okay.
Right? So there has to be like a door. There's got to be an opening.
Yeah.
And there is, right? So there's these doors that open up, just like your mouth opens up to allow food in. A fat cell opens the door to let fat in.
Does it take a certain amount of time to get it to switch, like the habit of storing versus letting it out? Like
that's a good question too. So we have to figure out what is the signal to get that front door shut.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not going to eat anymore, and then open up the back door to let stuff out. Right. Because the only way that we can get smaller as humans is to get stuff mass out of the body.
Yeah.
Right. Same with a fat cell. Like a fat cell has to have another door to release cargo, to send energy into the bloodstream. Right. So if you just think of it like very mechanically, everybody talks about calories and macros and all this kind of stuff. There's something there, but at the end of the day, the fat cell has to become smaller. Okay. So what is the signal? Is it cardiorespiratory endurance training? Is it weight training? I think there may be some very small effects, but again, going back to nutrition has a huge effect on fat storage. And we already know that hormones are kind of the signalers for those doors on fat cells. When you have a certain sort of combination of hormones with different doses in the body, that's what either says, hey, fat cell, we need energy, or hey, fat cell, we don't need energy, right? Like those are the signals that we need. That's how we can sort of hack the system.
Okay.
Right? But if we keep sending the signal like, hey, fat cells, you got to store, you got to keep the front door open. In other words, you're just force feeding your body. Like you just can't stop.
Yeah.
I call them greedy fat cells. If you've got greedy fat cells where the only messages are just let's eat.
Yeah.
What's going to happen? They're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? You can exercise your ass off, but if the wrong signals are at the fat cell, it doesn't matter how much you exercise. You might get fitter, but you could be getting fat.
So then my question would be, let's say you just got your nutrition in order and then you didn't do any workout, you'd probably still drop weight, wouldn't you?
100%. Yeah. So you don't have to exercise to lose body fat. That's a very,
seems like,
if you think of like Weight Watchers, right? Weight Watchers is notorious for tons of weight loss, and they have their point system, but they don't even really, at least from what I remember, they don't even really push exercise. That was kind of one of the things they hung their hat on.
Oh, really?
And that's what I think attracted a lot of people, was like, you don't have to go out and bust your ass in the gym.
Yeah.
All you got to do is just eat certain points in a day. Huh. So I think that attracted a lot of people, and a lot of people lost weight.
Interesting.
Yeah. But if you want full health, right? Because just being skinny doesn't necessarily mean that you're healthy either, right?
Sure.
So you can be very skinny and very unhealthy. And I always use the example of like, crack addicts. Some of them got great abs.
Like, man, that guy's ripped.
Yeah, they're super ripped. Yeah, cigarette hanging out of their mouth. They're a mess. But, if you see them walking down the street, you might be like, oh, that guy's pretty lean. He's pretty fit. It's not the case, right?
Yeah.
So,
he's just hungry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So true health, again, kind of goes back to like health equals fitness, right? So when it comes to, is it cardio or should we be worrying about weights? I think we're talking about the wrong thing here. Okay. And I think we really need to be talking about is like, what do your nutrition habits look like? Yeah. And if we can get your nutrition habits fixed, that's when you can start losing that excess body fat. And we already kind of know, like, you've probably heard about like keto, you probably heard about low carb, like all of these things that have, sort of become more and more popular over the years. There's a reason those things have become more popular, because we know that insulin, which is one of the hormones that raises up pretty significantly after you eat a high carbohydrate meal, that is notorious for shutting the front door of fat cells. Okay. Opening the front door of fat cells and closing the back door on fat cells. So imagine if your diet consisted of mostly carbohydrates and you constantly had that high, they call it hyperinsulinemia, which is high levels of insulin. If you're running with high levels of insulin 24 hours a day, which is what a lot of society is doing nowadays, is that a recipe for getting fat, or is that a recipe for getting leaner? Probably. It's fatter, yeah. And that's why 56% of men over 40 nowadays, actually, I think it's 56% of men in general, adult men, are overweight or obese. That's a wild statistic. Wow. 56%.
50 right here.
That's nuts. Yeah.
The doctor told me I was overweight.
Oh, yeah.
That hurt.
I wouldn't even be worried about overweight. What I get worried about is overfat.
Okay. Thanks.
Big difference. Yeah. Because I'm overweight. Like my BMI is like small, like I'm 160 pounds soaking wet. Very lean, but my BMI is too high.
No kidding.
Considered, in the high risk range. I don't remember exactly.
Really?
But that's very typical for like athletes.
Oh, okay.
High muscular people tend to be overweight.
Overweight, but not overfat. I think he meant I was overfat.
I don't think you are. I think it's very easy to go down those roads if you're not careful. Yeah. Right. So if you continue on for long periods of time eating a poor diet, that it becomes much, much harder to come back. Mm-hmm. It becomes a little bit harder to lose the body fat. And, we talked about one of the problems with hyperinsulinemia, if you're eating a very high carbohydrate diet and you've got this constant high level of insulin, you become what's called insulin resistant. Have you heard of that before? So if I'm just bombarding your system with insulin,
Okay.
the receptors on all of your, let's just use your fat cells, the receptors on your fat cells, they become a little bit less attuned to that signal.
Okay.
So there needs to be more signal to get the same response. Does that make sense? So if you're healthy, you might only need one, and I'm just making up numbers here, 1 teaspoon of insulin running through your body for that fat cell to lock down.
Okay.
Lock down the front door, lock down the back door, open the front door. Or if we've got a bunch of insulin in the system, let's say 2 teaspoons, that's the required dose to elicit that response.
Okay.
So in other words, your body has to produce more insulin to get the same response when you become sicker.
Huh.
Does that make sense? I don't think I explained that well.
Well, what do you mean sicker? Like, what does insulin do when you're sick?
Insulin resistance would be a sign that you're not as metabolically healthy.
Okay.
You're closer to type 2 diabetes.
Okay.
So the more insulin your body has to make, that your pancreas has to make, there's these they're called beta cells that are on the pancreas. Those are what make the insulin.
Okay.
Those things burn out.
Really?
And that's what like type 2 diabetes is. These things
Okay.
can completely burn out. Yeah, they just start shutting down. You've got like 1 million of them over the years. If you're running in a constant state of hyperinsulinemia, 10% go away every 3 years or whatever it is. I don't know what the numbers are.
Can they come back?
There's debate. And again, I think it has to do with how far down the road you've gone. They call it the metabolic cliff. Like if you've gone to type 2 diabetes, you fell off the cliff. The way back is brutal.
Oh yeah.
Don't go there.
Okay. I'll try.
Yeah, don't go there. So, when you eat a bunch of sugar, it goes into your bloodstream, and your body has to get it out of the bloodstream.
Yeah.
And that's why we have insulin. So if I eat a cookie and you eat a cookie, how much insulin does it take for you to store it in the fat cell compared to me to store it in the fat cell?
I don't know.
I don't know either. But if you're unhealthy or you're closer to type 2 diabetes, it might take twice the dose for you than for me.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But we don't generally measure that, right? So we both are able to store, to get it to clear it, but your dose may be much higher than mine.
Okay.
A very healthy person is more insulin sensitive, meaning they don't need as much insulin to have that same kind of response.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And you can like that. That's a big problem for weight loss for folks who are really struggling with weight loss. So what would be if we know that, what would be the best diet to get someone to start to have to lose body fat, right?
Low carb, no sugar.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Do you think that those keto, I'll go to the grocery store and I'll see like keto protein bars and stuff like that, but like they'll have sugar in them and stuff. Do you think those are kind of misleading?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
I do.
Especially if they say keto.
Really?
Yeah. If you really know about keto is literally you're burning fat for energy more than sugar.
Okay.
In a true keto diet, you're really not consuming any carbohydrates. None.
Okay.
Yeah. It's very hard to get into what they call ketosis, which is basically where you can measure it, you're burning more fat than carbs. You'll never be off carbs 100% because your liver makes it. It's stored in your muscles. So you never get away from it completely. But if you don't ingest it, your body has to automatically start opening the back door of those fat cells to start utilizing that fat for energy.
What relationship does metabolism have to insulin? Like, are they related? Like if you have a faster metabolism, does that have anything to do with how quickly your insulin can get rid of sugar?
It could be. See, metabolism it's an interesting thing because even someone who's let's say type 2 diabetic can boost their metabolism.
Okay.
Just by doing a little bit of exercise, just by thinking happy thoughts, like
really?
Whatever. Like when I get excited, my metabolism goes up.
Huh.
Right. When I sleep, my metabolism goes down. So it's not like a constant thing. It's constant. It's always it's variable.
Okay.
Right? Your lowest metabolism is, of course, when you're sleeping at night. right? If you're over fat, that person's metabolism is probably a little bit higher than mine
Okay.
because I'm more efficient, right? There's not as much stuff that has to happen here, right? I don't require as many calories when I'm sleeping as someone who maybe has a bunch of fat. They got to push a bunch more blood through the system. They're actually burning more energy than I am, probably.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's much more than, people always talk about slow metabolism. Your body wants to be efficient, right? So it doesn't want to run at high speed all the time. Like imagine like just pushing the gas pedal down and being in neutral. That's not what your body wants to do. Like that would be considered a high metabolism, right?
Right.
When you think about it. But your body wants to be efficient. In fact, it doesn't want the gas on all the time.
Wants to be on cruise control.
It wants to be on cruise. Yeah. It wants to be idling, right? That's like, and it wants to be really efficient. It doesn't want to utilize excess energy if it doesn't need to. And that's why I think like even a lot of bodybuilders, they have to eat so much food to get really, really big. But as soon as they stop eating so much food, what happens to their muscles?
Oh no.
They get small.
Really?
They go away pretty quickly. To be a bodybuilder, to put on a whole bunch of muscle tissue is like a full-time eating job.
Yeah, this one's got to eat like 6,000 calories in a day.
More than that, depending on how savage you are and how many steroids you're on. But yeah, I mean, it's a full-time job to hold on to muscle because your body doesn't, unless you're really using it, it doesn't really want to hold all that extra stuff. It's not very efficient, to be super muscular. So metabolism is separate from hyperinsulinemia and being diabetic.
Okay, so it's not really.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I would separate those two things into different. I mean, obviously everything is related because human physiology it's everything, right?
Yeah.
It's all connected in some way, shape, or form. But you can have a very, like I said, fine workout. I just got done working out a couple hours ago. My metabolism is probably a little bit higher than what it normally is, only because I'm still recovering from that workout. So my heart rate's probably a few beats higher. Maybe my respirations are up a little bit more. I know for a fact, like the body's like trying to fix all the muscle tissue that I just got done beating up.
Yeah.
Like I beat myself up for about an hour.
Yeah.
So my body's got to do the work.
So like that's what I always think is like, oh, in order to like lose weight and to see progress quicker, I got to get my metabolism faster. Like that's how somebody like me thinks that it's advertised or whatever.
We've been taught that. Yeah. Those are the words that we've been given, but
it doesn't really.
Yeah. If you want to lose weight, like how do we affect the fat cell, right? Like just keep it super simple.
Yeah.
Instead of using words like metabolism, which get complicated and kind of confusing, right? Like if you really just think about it, like you got a balloon, how do you empty the balloon? You've got to open the door to get this stuff out. And the only way to open those doors is through hormones. And I'm picking on insulin because that's the one that we probably know the most about, but there's hundreds, maybe thousands of hormones in the body. So it's still a bit simplistic, but and you've had this experience too, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you go low carb or even keto, what happens? You generally lose weight.
Yeah.
I've seen that pretty much with everybody.
Yeah.
Anybody that needs to lose fat, they cut the carbs, do keto, whatever. You cut the carbs, you're going to lose some fat.
I think I've been eating too much fruit. That's my problem. In excess.
There can be excess.
Yeah, it's excessive, I think.
Yeah.
So, because when I was losing weight and doing everything, that's the one difference now I would say is that's the one thing I haven't really cut down on. I've cut down on any kind of sugar. I did make it through Easter without eating one piece of candy.
No kidding. Dude.
So that's better than 2 years.
That's awesome.
That's what kills me every time. It's the holidays.
Yeah.
Because then it'll be like Thanksgiving and then I'll eat a dessert. I'm like, oh, dang it.
But I think this is really important. Like what stopped you?
The workouts, I'm sore. So I'm like, don't waste it. Don't be sore and then go eat some M&Ms.
Yeah.
The whole bag was sitting there open, like ready to fill the Easter eggs, and I didn't eat a one. Nice. I wanted them too really bad.
Nice.
So, but that's how I know I'm like switching my diet. So now I need to start cutting out the fruit, I think, and then I'll start seeing some results because right now I'm not seeing any results. I weigh 12 pounds less than Trump, apparently.
All right.
Yeah.
Right on. That's good.
224 this week.
Oh, yeah. What were we at before?
212.
Okay. Gotcha.
Now
What was your highest?
212.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Now I'm at like 206 now, I think.
You're at okay. I misunderstood. So you were 224, now you're 206.
Yeah, Trump's medical records came out and they said he was 224 this week. And I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah. Well, the good news is you don't look anything like him.
Yeah.
Your hair is way better.
Yeah.
Unless you're into his hair. Who knows?
Yeah. No, but I'm kidding. But yeah, so I just haven't seen that much progress like I would have, I think, when I was younger. I don't know, but
maybe. And again, it kind of goes back to if you've let yourself go for a period of time, it's harder to get back.
Yeah.
Right.
This has been the hardest ever. Easily.
And what is the hardest? Just eating bad, like the whole thing? Like
just seeing any kind of progress has been like, I mean, like, I think a few years ago, even if I would have changed my diet in the way that I did, I would have seen something, like some kind of progress.
You haven't seen anything?
Like hardly at all.
How many days have you gone?
It's been probably a month. Like it's been 2 months.
So you've been eating really good.
I'm not really good, but much better. Like there's been a few times where I'm like, but it's a lot of the fruit late night. I've been eating fruit a lot. And then, I've been almost cut out bread entirely, but I still had a little bit. So it's not like perfect, but no sugar, like none.
What about drinks? No sugar in your drinks?
No sugar in my drinks. I have had alcohol a little bit. And so like I had some wine the other day. I think it was probably had sugar in it. So it's not on the bottom.
Alcohol is the other X factor.
Yeah, that would be a good one to look at because, I haven't been drinking that much, but what I have been, it's kind of like whatever I had instead of like before it was like, if I was like, watching what I eat, I would drink like a Truly or something that has no sugar at all. But now it's been like just, here's some brandy or something like that. I think we had a bottle of brandy. I'm sure there's tons of sugar in that. So that's.
I know alcohol has some effects on keeping those fat cells from releasing their cargo.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, dose dependent, right? So even with carbs, like I think you can get away with having some. Again, it depends on kind of where you're coming at this from. Like if you're type 2 diabetic and you're trying to reverse your diabetes, no carbs.
Yeah.
No alcohol.
None.
Like you just gotta stop.
Just all together.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you're not there, you're not off the cliff yet. If you get your HbA1c tested and you're still within the normal range, you should be able to come back. When I say come back, you should be able to get yourself pretty healthy pretty quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if that's it maybe.
Yeah.
That and some of the bread.
Yeah.
Well, it's been like tortillas. That's been like mostly what I've had, like, but before it was like when I was doing the macros, I was like, after 2 tortillas, it's like, you're going to go over.
Well, let's do this. So let's like, give me a like a day.
Okay.
Give me like the foods that went in your face.
So like, what did I eat yesterday? I had 4 eggs.
So we'll just say eggs.
And then like 2 tortillas.
Tortilla.
Yep. And then for dinner I had chicken. I had ground turkey.
Nice.
Seasoned with taco seasoning.
Doesn't matter what it's seasoned with.
And then also tortillas.
Tortilla.
Yeah.
Anything else?
So.
Any alcohol?
I had one drink. I had like a little cup of brandy with Cointreau in it.
All right.
And then
what's Cointreau, you said?
Yeah,
what's that?
Mix, I don't know.
Is it sugar?
Probably.
Okay.
I'm sure.
So we'll say juice.
And
right?
then also I probably ate like 6 of those little cutie oranges, the little small oranges.
Yep. That's cool.
And then cheese. I had some cheese. Like just cheddar.
Anything else?
Trying to think. I think that's about it, really.
So you had 9 different types of foods that went into your face yesterday. So you had eggs, tortilla, chicken, turkey, tortilla, alcohol, juice in the alcohol, oranges, and cheese. Out of these 9, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them would be foods that don't fall into the categories of, we're going meat, veggies, nuts, seeds, and fruit.
Okay.
So 4 out of 9, almost 50%.
Yeah.
were from the other category food. Where I find that the quote unquote magic tends to happen is somewhere around 80%. Again, depending on the person, you can get away with. I've seen 70% work really well for some folks. So I'll say between 70 and 80%.
Okay.
And that's kind of a simple way. Like if you think of your day, as you're going through your day, or even just your meal, just look at your plate and just do a quick calculation, right?
Okay.
Like if you got 4 things for breakfast,
Yeah.
make sure 3 of them are from meat, veggie, nuts, seeds, and fruit.
Okay.
And only have 1 other. Or better yet, just have 4 things from meat, veggie, nuts, seeds, and fruit. Like just keep it super simple.
Yeah. Like today I haven't hardly had anything to eat. I ate 4 boiled eggs this morning.
Yeah, don't even worry about the quantity. That's one of the things like I try to train my clients out of is telling me how much.
Oh, okay.
They're always like, I had 4 of these, 3 of these. I'm like, just tell me what you ate.
Okay.
Because that's what sends the signal to the body, right?
Yeah.
So what was, I'm sorry.
I ate boiled eggs.
So eggs, okay.
And then I had
Eggs are meat, by the way. Eggs are meat.
okay. And then let's see. I did have a couple of oranges. Sorry.
It's funny, right? There's that habit of like quantity. We're focused on the quality instead of quantity.
And then later on I had eggs with cottage cheese.
Cool. Eggs, cottage cheese.
So I'm still 50-50,
Yeah.
even though.
No, you're at 75%.
Does the cottage cheese count as though?
That's an other. But you said eggs, oranges, eggs,
Uh-huh.
and then some cottage cheese.
Oh, so 3 out of 4.
So 3 out of 4, 75%. So that's a pretty good day. But I would argue that you probably didn't eat enough, right? So there is something to quantity. The first thing that we always focus on, or that I focus on with my clients, is quality first, which you did a good job of here.
Okay.
But then if this habit were to persist, if I were to see this for a few days in a row,
Yeah.
I'd be like, hey man, why are you only eating 4 things in a day? Especially if you're exercising.
Yeah.
And I know that's not normally your habit, but
Yeah. Normally I would have eaten tonight before I came. I was busy.
because you also want to put some, you got to put energy in the tank,
Yeah.
especially if you're exercising, right? Your body needs the resources to be able to rebuild and recover from the abuse that you put it through.
Yeah.
Right. And if you don't put enough in there, that can be a problem. That can actually just burn you out and hurt your performance.
I just took a big dose of crack before I came over.
That's a good idea.
I saw that guy. I was like, man,
That's meat.
he's so skinny. Yeah.
The other thing too is people that chronically undereat. Here's another interesting thing. When you chronically undereat, what does that signal to the fat cell?
That you need to hold on.
Yeah.
Oh,
You go into like survival, right?
yeah.
So your body is going to find a way to get energy. The first thing it's going to do is going to start down regulating everything. Going back to the metabolism,
Yeah.
it's going to start slowing you down. It's going to go into like
Interesting.
what do you call it? Preservation mode.
Yeah.
Like self-preservation, right? It's going to just start winding things down. Your immune system is going to start dropping
Okay.
because you're not going to be turning over cells as quickly, right? Your digestion is going to go down. Your mental acuity is going to go down. When we talk about like down regulating the system, the metabolism, like everything slows down because you're just trying to preserve life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't eat enough, that's why there's a lot of people out there, and I believe them. A lot of people will tell me like, look, Tim, I don't eat that much, but I can't lose this weight.
So they're not eating enough.
Yeah,
I
and
found
so
that.
like this, like, what are you eating? Well, I had crack this morning.
Yeah.
I had 3 donuts
Yeah.
and a Mountain Dew,
then
and I
some-
can't lose any weight. And I'm like, no kidding.
Yeah. Like,
You're eating the worst food, and you're not eating anything.
yeah.
You know, so the fat cells are wide open. The doors are wide open, right? Because you're flooding the body with sugar, right? You're not
Yeah.
eating enough. So the food that you are putting in your system, the energy that you are putting, what's happening to it?
I don't know.
It's going into the fat cell.
Oh, it's storing itself in the fat.
Because the fat cells are greedy, right? Like you're sending the signal like store. And your body's like, I need energy. So like your fat cells are fighting with every other system in your body and you're just trying to freaking survive.
Yeah.
It's a mess, right?
Interesting.
And all kinds of terrible things, I believe, can happen when you're in that state of starvation, and then add on bad food on top of starvation. It's, in my opinion, that's the worst place to be.
Really.
Yeah. And that's the funny thing, like people who eat like shit, a lot of times they won't eat a lot so that they can eat like shit.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yep.
it's a weird mental kind of game that we
Yeah.
play with ourselves. So as soon as I, like, okay, let's clean this up. Let's focus on quality. Okay, good. You got that. Now let's add another meal.
Yeah.
Let's add another thing, and we just start changing those habits over time.
Okay.
And then start your exercise program, right? With somebody who's not eating enough for long periods of time, for maybe months, years, it's hard to add exercise because their energy levels are so low, because their system is so down regulated, right? Because
Yeah.
they have no energy to exercise. They're just barely hanging on. It's like you're fat, you're overweight, overfat, and you're starving. It's
not a good
it's
combination.
a bizarre state to be in, but it's real. Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Crazy. The human
All right.
body is crazy.
It is. It's
We inundated with a bunch of crappy food, we can fuck it up and just mess it all up, and it blows up on us.
yeah.
It blows up, as we're seeing. All right. What else we got? We got busy man workout strategies. We'll breeze through this one pretty quickly. But I want to hear your thoughts, because you went through a stretch where you were exercising all the time.
Yeah.
You look like a friggin' you were a bodybuilder for a while, right? Weren't you on stage just doing it, wearing a bikini?
No.
No. Okay. Never mind.
For like a week, I looked okay in a bathing suit.
For a week. But how did you fit it in? You're the busiest man I know, so
I wasn't
You're the
as
expert.
busy back then. It was easier because I had more time in the mornings. So that's when I would usually do it. I'd get up and I'd take a decent amount of time before I had to do anything. That was like, it was pretty slow for a while. And that was when I really had a good amount of time to get in shape. And then it's like, once I moved to Wake Forest, everything went up so much because we bought a house that I had to work so much more to pay for everything that now my time is almost nil.
Yeah.
So now it's been like, oh, do I have 20 minutes to go do something real quick? And then I just try to get as much out of it as I can.
Yeah.
So, but I'm also like being lazy, a little bit. Like I haven't been doing my cardio workouts as much as just like lifting weights, just because I feel more sore and it's less effort. And so I feel like I can feel like I did something good than,
Yeah.
like a full body thing.
Yeah. So you're super busy. So when you were in your best shape,
Yeah.
you had more time.
Oh yeah.
So now you don't have as much time,
Right.
obviously, but you're still finding, just recently you've kind of found some little time spots where you are working on.
Yeah.
Obviously you're making the time, right?
Yeah.
Is that something that you can sustain?
I mean, yeah, for sure I could carve out some time, I mean, it's been like 15 minutes here and there, but enough to like do something,
Yeah.
And
you said you notice when you work out.
yeah, I feel good, but I'm sore today. Like my pecs hurt, my arms hurt,
Yeah.
my legs are sore, like I feel good.
And realistically, could you get 20 minutes a day, 5 days a week? Realistically. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
What would be the reason not to get 20 minutes?
Laziness, denial,
What do you mean by denial?
like telling yourself that you don't have 15 minutes to spare.
Gotcha.
I think that would be just, lying to yourself, really. I mean, surely everybody, even the busiest days ever, I can surely step away for 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, but sometimes you just don't feel like it. You work like crazy or something, or like you don't want to take a break, or the phone. I certainly spend that much time on the phone every day, easily.
Do you mean like work stuff or like?
No, like just checking my emails and stuff like that, or checking social media or whatever, Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wasting time. Yeah, for sure.
I think we're all guilty nowadays, right?
Like what? So do you have like, okay, I don't have like any of this kind of equipment that, what would you recommend somebody like me do if you do have only 15 to 20 minutes a day or something like that? Well,
Get a barbell.
just get a barbell.
Just get a barbell.
Really?
Yeah. Get a barbell. Do some lifting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or a HIIT workout. We talked about doing like a 15, 20 minute HIIT workout.
Yeah.
There's lots of ways you can do that. And I might even split up the day. So if you only have 15 minutes one day doing a strength move, deadlift, squat, press, whatever. And then maybe on the opposite days, just do some sort of a high intensity conditioning.
And a barbell would be like the big long
Yeah, we'll stop right
Like
there.
one of those. Okay.
Yeah, so you get a bar and you get some weights, and like the cool thing about a bar and weights, they don't take a lot of space, right? Because you can literally like, put the bar up in the corner if you want
Yeah.
a squat rack, and the plates you can just stack them up on the floor, so it doesn't take up any space, and they'll last forever.
Okay.
Like it'll be the one thing, like that'll be the one thing that I have until the day I die.
Yeah.
My son will be taking that barbell out of my house. Hopefully he'll be using it, but he'll be cleaning the house out, and that'll still be here.
Yeah.
Hopefully with some sweat and shock on it, because that's the way I want to go.
Yeah.
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 Fit, strong. Yeah. But that's what I would recommend. So get a barbell because it's the most efficient way to build strength.
Okay.
Learn what you're doing, know what, so you don't hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Core strength, super important.
How many?
Way to build core strength?
Is there just an unlimited number of exercises you can do with a barbell?
Not necessarily, but I think the goal is, I think that's a big sort of myth in the fitness world is more is better. It's
Like you don't need variety, you just need to.
Yeah. I mean, if you just love working out, you just love going to the gym and spending hours in the gym, like you just love it.
Who the fuck does that?
I may be a little bit guilty of that. And that's one of the things I love about CrossFit is because they do so many different things.
Yeah.
Like you're doing like gymnastic stuff and weightlifting stuff and powerlifting stuff and you're running and you're rowing and you're swimming and you're like, you literally do everything. So I kind of enjoyed that. But if you just want to be efficient,
Yeah.
do the things that deliver the biggest bang for the buck.
Okay.
Sitting around doing bicep curls is probably not your best option if you've only got 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Get on a bar, lift some heavy stuff, because when we load the system with heavy stuff, everything gets stronger,
Okay.
right? Like, and the best way to load the system with really heavy stuff is the bar. You will always lift more weight with a bar than you will with anything else.
Okay.
Your potential is so much higher. And it's kind of fun. Like, I've been training on a barbell for decades.
Yeah.
And like
Still.
yeah. And it's really fun when you start seeing the numbers go up.
Yeah.
You start deadlifting and you start off, if you've never really done it before, and I'll just use deadlift as an example, but you deadlift 95 pounds. Next thing you know, you're doing reps of 405.
Oh my God.
That's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
Like, and it takes, you got to put work into it,
Yeah.
right? Like, but it's very satisfying. It might take years, but it's very satisfying.
I could see that.
Yeah. I go back to that quote. What is the quote from Bruce Lee? I don't fear the man who practices 1,000 kicks. I fear the man who practices one kick 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Find the things that are really effective and do those things.
Okay.
Kind of like an MMA, right? Those guys aren't out doing karate and kung fu. They're doing jujitsu. They're doing Muay Thai, right? Like they have very specific things because they're the ones that are the most devastating. So you focus on the things that matter the most, and that's how you can be incredibly efficient and effective.
Okay.
Which is super important, as you know, if you're a freaking busy guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, efficiency and effectiveness, man.
I gotta trade on like crap for a barbell.
Yeah, totally. Get a bar. Right. And then learn the ways of they call it the ways of the barbell. Learn the ways of the barbell. Learn the ways of the barbell. Dude, it will treat you well forever.
You're like the Yoda of barbells.
It's so effective. It's so good. It's so good. The strongest people in the world train with a barbell.
Man.
I mean, show me a strong man who doesn't train with a barbell. You won't find him.
Really?
Show me an athlete, like a high-level athlete that doesn't train with a barbell. You won't find him. If you go to a D1 gym, and the only reason I know this is because I see them online. If you go to a D1 gym nowadays, it's just squat racks.
Really?
Just lined up with platforms and just barbells.
Wow.
I mean, they're running up and down the place.
It's just,
there'll be 100 of them.
That's the science of it. It's
just get on a freaking bar. It makes incredibly strong, powerful people.
All right.
And you can even use them in your conditioning routines. So if you want to add some sort of resistance training to your routine, like today we did hang power snatches with burpees and toes to bar. And it was, for me, heavy hang power snatches at 115 pounds. So I'm high heart rate.
Yeah.
And I got to throw 115 pounds over my head 40 times.
Oh my God.
I had all that stuff in between. It's brutal.
Yeah.
I was like laid out.
How do you do that without having a heart attack?
Training.
Okay.
Train. And like I said, you adapt. Like you get so much better. It never gets easy, but you get better at it.
Yeah.
It's never easy. I mean, I was like laid out on the floor. My buddy, who's much bigger than I am, threw that 115 pounds around like it was a doll.
Really?
And I'm like, he smoked me. But he was gassed too, because it doesn't matter as long as you put the effort in.
How long did it take
It's
you?
hard. It took me 12 or 13 minutes. It took him 9:50.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you got a hell of a workout in
Oh,
15
dude.
minutes. Jeez.
Dude.
I'm doing everything the wrong way.
Smoke.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can, cardiorespiratory fitness, there's the best way to kind of test it is to like come up with some different tests. So like mile run. I think that's a very good test for average guys that just want to live a healthy life.
See how fast you can run a mile.
Yeah, see how fast you can run a mile.
Okay.
And if you continuously get better, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's just awesome. So you can find different tests to do to test that cardiorespiratory system and
you like-
see progress.
Do you like treadmills for that, or would you,
I don't like treadmills.
I mean, but that's the thing I like about a treadmill is like once I can run that distance and I don't have to go back. I'm just done. Like, I don't know. That's my laziness, but
No, it's all right. I think if you like running on a treadmill, run on a treadmill.
yeah.
If you're an athlete who wants to be a runner, don't run on a treadmill.
Okay.
You got to run on pavement. You got to run on ground.
Yeah.
It's just different. The ground is moving underneath you, so it's different biomechanically than it is running on flat ground.
Adapt to your surroundings.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same. The muscles fire differently.
Okay.
Yeah. So it looks the same. You would never know it, but if you really get into the details and how muscle fires and nervous system stuff and coordination, all that kind of stuff, it's different. So if you're a runner, don't run on a treadmill. If you can help it, get outside and run.
Okay.
But if you like being on a treadmill and you're just training to be a good dad, whatever, dude, just get on it. It's all good. It's all good. Yeah. Don't worry too much about it. So efficiency, effectiveness, and I think the most important thing is a willingness to do it,
Yeah.
a commitment, right?
Yeah. Yep.
You got to be freaking committed.
Yeah, you've got to. That's the hard part once you're getting back into it,
Yeah.
is to-
For you, what was the switch to go from like, I don't have the time, making excuses, blah, 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 into going like, I'm going to make the time, even if it's just 15 minutes.
It was just when the doctor told me how much I weighed and I just couldn't believe it. I mean, it was just far more than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, okay.
It's funny because most changes always happen at the worst of times, right? I think that's,
Yeah, that's the other thing too. I hate having my picture taken too.
yeah. I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talked to guys who were like, I was on vacation and my wife showed me a picture of myself and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You
I see. I'm like, what?
Until you see the picture.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're on track. That's awesome. All right, let's just touch on this very last thing here. What to do if you've been told that you have low testosterone. And I don't think they test this enough for guys. Well, I shouldn't say that. I think they're testing it more now because they're trying to sell it a lot more. Testosterone replacement therapy has gone through the roof, but they used to not test it. And you just mentioned they didn't test you, right?
I don't know.
I think you might have to ask for it.
I'll have to look. I could look at my chart and see.
Yeah, it's all right. I think you might have to ask for it, but generally, low testosterone, we see that in the unhealthy population,
Okay.
right? So somebody that works out a lot, eats good, generally doesn't have a low testosterone problem, right? So again, a lot of people blame it on age, but there are guys out there who are 60 years old who've got 600 testosterone, like they're good.
Okay.
So if you live a very healthy life, it's my experience and my belief that you probably never have to worry about this.
Okay.
Right. But now they've got this thing called TRT, testosterone replacement therapy. So guys are going in who are a little bit unhealthy. They're overweight. They don't sleep good. They're high stress. They've got they're not working out. They've got all the red flags. They're the ones that are getting prescribed TRT. Instead of going for TRT, I suggest, and this seems like common sense in my brain, but why not start working out?
Yeah.
Why not start eating better? Why not start prioritizing your sleep a little bit more, right? Just living a more healthful life. And there's a good chance that those testosterone numbers are going to change and they're going to get better. Like they're going to come back to normal without having to do some sort of external supplementation.
Huh. Interesting. Well, yeah, see, I never think about stuff like that because I'm like, I literally, for a long time, I was like, I probably should take something,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. We're like the pill society, right? Like, there's something wrong. I'll take a pill.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But instead,
But I hate pills. Yeah.
yeah, let's fix the core issues here. You know, and I think if people are willing to fix those core issues instead of going for the magic pill, life is going to be better in every way, shape, and form. If you just try to cheat the system, because we don't have the perfect magic pill yet, if you just try to cheat the system, you're missing out on so many of the benefits of just, you know, let's say even if you did take TRT and you looked jacked, which you won't unless you exercise, right? You still have to do some form of strength training.
Yeah.
But let's just say that happened. Like you just take this pill and all of a sudden you're like, boom, you're jacked.
Okay.
But you still have no energy.
Yeah.
You still feel like shit. Maybe you still got high blood pressure. Maybe you still got, you still got some other health issues going on. Is that worth the trade-off?
To me, I think about this, like, okay, let's say you went and just got a bunch of plastic surgery,
Yeah.
right? Like I would never do that.
Why wouldn't you?
Even if it was free, I wouldn't do it because I wouldn't feel like I earned it, you know? And then like, I feel like I wouldn't be able to maintain it,
Yeah.
you know? So I think that's, so yeah, I never thought about it like that, but yeah, if there was a magic pill that would just make you look ripped, it's the same thing as just having artificial everything, you know?
Dude, what you just said there just blew my mind because you said it so perfectly. But you're like, because I didn't earn it.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for earning something, like doing the freaking work.
It does. It feels
There's a
good.
satisfaction.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it just builds character, right?
Yeah.
Like doing the work, I don't care what it is, whether it's your health, your fitness, your relationships, your business, whatever it is, doing the work is always, in my mind, the best way.
Yeah.
Those are the people I want to hang out with. I don't want to hang out with, there's different character people, right?
Yep.
People that are always looking to cheat the system, they're not that interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't feel good about
No.
if I had to pay for it. If I paid for abs, I'd be like, what are you doing?
Yeah. So get out and do the work. There's so many other benefits to just hardening up, man. Harden the fuck up and just do some work, right? Be a little bit more disciplined. Go to bed at night. Put the phone down. You know, there's so many like even just little things.
Talking to me again.
Yeah, but you're on the path.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm doing
Like
things.
you're on the path.
A little.
You're
Yeah.
doing the thing, you know?
No,
You're doing the thing. All right. I think we covered everything we want to cover today. Next time we'll dig into some more of these things. We'll keep coming up. And if you've got anything that you think we should be talking about, make sure that you let us know in the comments.
Yep. Put it in the
Put it in the
comments.
comments. Yeah,
So-
because we read the comments.
Yeah.
All of them.
If you're a bodybuilder and you want to take this guy on,
Yeah.
put it in the comments.
Yeah. Put it in the comments. Yeah. We'll see if we can make that happen.
We'll have a cage match.
Yeah, I might be able to outrun you. It might be my best go-to. I've got a pretty badass. I've taken enough jiu-jitsu to be slightly dangerous.
Really?
And let me emphasize slightly. Yes.
Enough to kick my ass.
I got a mean arm bar, and I can choke the fuck out of somebody with these bony ass arms. You heard it here. Slightly dangerous.